coming up. Just going to give you a visual cue. There you go. Okay. I'm Michael Hiplin. This is Arkansas PBS, coming to you from the rotunda of the Arkansas State Capitol. This is where a rally is about to get underway. The group Americans for Prosperity is organizing this rally. It comes in the second week of the legislative session as Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has said education reform is her priority. And this rally is being held here with maybe a couple hundred people. It's got a mix of educators, parents, and students here. This also comes ahead of next week being National School Choice Week, and there is an event scheduled for the State House Convention Center. Governor Sanders is to speak at that as well. We are expecting the governor will be speaking here. It looks like this event is still getting underway. People still getting organized for this. But a lot of signs, I'm looking out here, people holding signs saying students are not standardized, got choice, others as well. This legislation is the priority from Governor Sanders, and we don't know exactly yet what it will include. Republicans hold a supermajority in the legislature, so it's not a matter of if this legislation will be passed, but what it will include. We will have tomorrow night, House Minority Leader Tippy McCullough is scheduled to join us on Arkansas Week, so we will get a differing viewpoint from her. The Democrat from Little Rock is an educator and certainly has differing viewpoints on this legislation. Some have said this will take away from public schools that are already underfunded. And this would include a broad variety of things. It would include money for homeschooling, as well as private schools, maybe even parochial schools. A lot of details still to be worked out, and a lot of lawmakers have said they're eager to find out exactly what the details are going to be in this. So if we can just take a look around the room, we've got a good-sized crowd here. We've got a lot of reporters eager to hear what Governor Sanders has to say about this. No sign on this beginning yet, but we'll see. As said, specific details of this legislation are still being worked out. For those who are concerned about what this would mean for students, we had Senate President Bart Hester on Arkansas Week last week, and he offered assurances that there will be ways to check accountability for this legislation, things that will make sure students are meeting minimum standards when it comes to education. So that's where we are, waiting for this event to begin, scheduled to begin at 10 o'clock. It was originally scheduled to begin at 10:30, but we got word yesterday evening that it is now on track to begin at 10 o'clock. Whether or not that is the case, we'll find out. We now have someone at the podium.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Are about ready to begin.
No. This one here? All right. Good morning, everyone.
And here we are.
Good morning. Thank you for being here and being part of Empower Education Day at the Arkansas State Capitol. Americans for Prosperity is dedicated to empowering every Arkansan by elevating your voice to those in government and to reform our education system with proven principles. I understand the importance of these policies through my own lived education experience. My parents, who are with me today, made education a top priority for our family and sacrificed to find the best possible school district in which our family could afford to live. I know it was not always financially easy for my family at times, but my father and my mother worked long hours, kept cutting into our meager family budgets to give their children an opportunity to succeed. So Mom and Dad, I thank you. Today, we are asking our elected representatives to support the education freedom policies that are being championed by Governor Sanders. Freedom is actualized when individuals are making more decisions for themselves and having less decisions being made for them. and Governor Sanders' education policies will give parents more freedom for one of the most important decisions they can make: how their children will be educated. And this will be regardless of family income, and this will be regardless of where they can afford to live. So please join me in welcoming the 47th governor of the great state of Arkansas, Governor Sarah Sanders.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. And a huge thank you to Ryan and all of the folks at Americans for Prosperity for putting this group together. We are unbelievably excited about the opportunity in front of us when it comes to education reform here in the state of Arkansas. My son, George, who's 7, he warned me last week when he was in protest about attending the inauguration that the reason he didn't want to come is because he didn't want to listen to another one of those long, boring speeches. I told George, I said, George, it looks like every time you go to an event with me, though, you're having a great time. He turned to me, he said, Mom, you cannot always judge a book by its cover. So because today is all about a focus on kids in Arkansas, I will try to honor George's wishes and not make you suffer through one of those long, boring political speeches. But I do want to make a couple things very clear. Something that I have made no secret and have continued to repeat and will not stop until we get the job finished is that education reform will be the hallmark of my administration, and we will change what it looks like in Arkansas. We can and we must do better for the kids in the state of Arkansas. The problems that we have here in education did not start yesterday, and they will not be fixed overnight, but we will get to work right now to make sure we address the shortfalls here in our state. That's why already in the first week of taking office, I've signed 3 executive orders helping to improve education here in the state of Arkansas. I've made it very clear that in the state of Arkansas, we will educate, not indoctrinate our kids, which is why the first executive order did exactly that. We will take whatever steps are necessary to prevent indoctrination at our schools. We will focus on things like the Arkansas Learns initiative that I rolled out during my campaign. It was the second executive order on education that I signed, making sure that we are focused on literacy here in our state. We know that if a child is not reading by that critical benchmark of 3rd grade, that we are setting them up for a lifetime of failure. 70% of those incarcerated in the state of Arkansas cannot read. That is a scary indicator and something we know we can fix and address, and in Arkansas we will. We have to make sure that we are focused on parental empowerment. Empowering our parents is one of the most critical things that we can do when it comes to a child's success in education. This is not about school choice. This is about parental choice and making sure parents have the power. We will bring accountability to our school system. We'll make sure that our teachers have the resources and the training and the incentives they need to do their job well. We will be focused on an increasing pay for every teacher in the state of Arkansas. We'll focus on workforce readiness. We have to make sure that when a child finishes school, they are prepared to go into the workforce. We have to set them up for a pathway to prosperity, making sure that we aren't simply figuring out what a child knows, but what can they do with the information that they have. We will prepare students for the workforce, and we will set the standard for what that looks like in this country. Make sure every student has access to broadband. One of the things we've learned over the last couple of years is students who do not have that access and that connectivity are at a disadvantage. Whether that's from a public school, a home school, or a private school, students need to be able to connect. And we will make sure that we finish that last mile when it comes to broadband across the state of Arkansas. And lastly, and one of the most important components, is safety. No parent should ever worry when they drop their kids off at school that they're not going to be there when they come back in the afternoon. These are the principles and the priorities that I laid out in the Arkansas Learns Initiative during my campaign, and these are the priorities that will be reflected in the Arkansas Learns legislation that we will be rolling out in the coming weeks. We're working very closely with our partners in the legislature, and we will reform education in a way no state has ever done in this country, and we will be the leader for the United States on this. We are no longer going to make excuses, but we are going to make critical changes to address education in the state of Arkansas. We will empower parents. We will reward our teachers, and we will create opportunity for every student in the state of Arkansas. No child should ever be trapped in a failing school or sentenced to a lifetime in poverty because of the school they are forced to attend. Parents cannot be an afterthought in education. They are the foundation for a child's success. These will be guiding principles as we sit and make this legislation. If we focus on these principles and these priorities, I know that we can set the standard, but we certainly cannot do that alone. We need the help of every person that is here today. Call on your members. Make sure that you are telling them that this is a priority for you and that they cannot come home to their districts until we get this job done. And I assure you, we will get the job done. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the role you play. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Sanders. She has kindly allowing us some additional time, so if you would like to meet with the governor, she's going to be right over here. Come by, shake her hand, tell her a little bit about what education reform means to you, and we'll be ready for the next speaker when she is able to go back to the office. Thank you again, Governor Sanders.
And with that, it looks like this rally is wrapping up. Right now we can see Governor Sanders shaking hands with participants in this event. A couple of key points we just heard. She said this is not about school choice, but parental choice. She brought up shortfalls in education right now. She also noted that increasing pay for all teachers will be a priority. That's one thing that was debated during the special session of the legislature held last August. She also, as we heard, encouraged participants here to contact their legislators and encourage them to make sure this is passed, not wrap up, not leave until education reform is passed. And with strong Republican majorities in the House and Senate, it's not a matter of if this will be passed, but just what specifically will be the details on that. From the Arkansas Capitol Rotunda, I'm Michael Heppelin for Arkansas PBS.
show that to Ryan later.
And we're back here as Governor Sanders continues visiting with people at this rally. Joining me right now is Representative Carlton Wing, member of the Education Committee. First, tell me where we are on the process of crafting this legislation that the governor wants to see.
Yeah, so the drafts are still being made, and because it's very comprehensive, there's a lot of details that are still being worked out. But we anticipate within the next week or so, we should be able to see a near final draft.
And can you tell me what will be included, what y'all are looking at this point?
Well, it'll address each of the topics that the LEARNS objective is, that acronym, all of those will be addressed in this bill.
And how soon, what kind of support are you seeing? How soon could we actually see something come out of committee?
Well, I would anticipate there will probably be a special order of business for that day, and so that's when the committee chair recognizes that a significant piece of legislation that's going to take a little bit of time to go through. So we'll probably declare a special order of business for that. So we'll have that on the calendar, and I think within the next few weeks, the goal is to get this not to drag it out to the end of the session, but to get it done quickly.
There are concerns about accountability. How do you make sure if students are being homeschooled or getting private education, non-traditional forms of education, how do you make sure they're meeting the benchmarks? What kind of assurances can you offer about that?
Well, and that's a good question. That can be answered really in two different ways. There will be means for accountability within that piece of legislation, but also the ultimate accountability is the parent and the child themselves. Where are they thriving the most? And so that's where the accountability lies, is with the families themselves.
And what kind of questions are you hearing from lawmakers? I know even earlier this week there were still a lot of lawmakers who were saying they didn't know specifics, were eager to learn more.
I think that's really the number one question is, okay, what are the specifics? How is this going to be carried out? You know, we've had bills with educational empowerment and educational choice before in previous sessions. A lot of those themes will be similar, but there will be more questions as we go through, because this is very comprehensive. I mean, this is not, everybody is focusing on the school choice element, which is just one of the letters. That's the empowerment part. But I mean, we've got the all kinds of other things, school safety, we've got the networking, we've got other things that are going to be part of this bill, which is really set to transform Arkansas, who has been near the bottom of most educational ratings for decades. And so this is really an opportunity for us to make a leap forward, because the best path out of poverty is education. And in this country, we have the ability to rise from poverty to prosperity very quickly based on what you know and how hard you work.
And finally, this is very early in Governor Sanders' term, just sworn in last week. What kind of element is she bringing into this? The energy, say, that we have in the room right now.
Well, you hit it. Energy is the big thing. There is a lot of energy around this. And so this is very exciting to see, because I've been working on this for years. I got myself onto the Education Committee just to be able to help propel this forward. Governor Sanders made it her number one priority, because it really is the number one thing. When you look at the state of Arkansas and what's going to move the needle the most for quality of life in the state of Arkansas, and we discuss a lot of things here at the legislature, taxation policy, all kinds of things, but the number one thing is education. Governor Sanders has hit on that and is hammering that home across the board, that we have got to improve education in Arkansas, and we finally have the means to be able to do it.
Representative Carlton Wing, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
And with that, I think we'll wrap up our coverage here from the rotunda of the Arkansas State Capitol after hearing from Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders a short time ago. I'm Michael Heplin, Arkansas PBS.